The losers have to show up to combat class in their underwear, Olympian said with a broad smile. Midas started laughing uncontrollably. That's too funny. I can see Connors looking at the two of you showing up like that. Darkspeed tried hard not to laugh. Connors would be just as mad at you, Olympian, for making the bet. It would be awesome, admit it, Olympian said with a big grin. Let's get out of here, Darkspeed said and led the group out of the arcade. And I don't want to see anyone in their underwear at combat class. Consider the bet off. Outside, Zayed led the group to a limo that was parked outside the mall's grand entrance. I have arranged for transportation. I think we can all be comfortable in this, he said, gesturing to the car. You got that for us? Midas said with an open mouth. Why? Darkspeed asked. Why live in a wealthy country if you can't be hospitable? Saber said. Darkspeed and the others piled into the limo. Olympian was busy looking at the plush interior of the car. Midas played with all the remote control features. Darkspeed tried to look like he rode in one of these already. Greco and Newton joined Olympian and Midas in testing out the limo. How far is the airport? Darkspeed asked. The helicopter is landing on a nearby rooftop. We're going there, Zayed answered. Soon, all the boys were sitting in a helicopter that was not much less luxurious than the limo they were just in. Midas made sure he had a window seat. Newton made a face at him when he sat down quickly. Don't make that face at me. You can fly. You get to see this kind of thing all the time, Midas defended himself. I don't get to fly around Dubai every day, Newton said back. Let the kid have it, Olympian said as he gave up a window seat for Newton. I can fly, and I've flown to Dubai before. You have? Saber asked. Sure. My older brothers and I have been everywhere. Dubai is a nice flyby on our way to Malaysia. What's in Malaysia? Awesome noodles. Cheap, too. Olympian rubbed his stomach as he said this. You just ate, Darkspeed said. Friend, I don't have to be hungry to eat. I just have to see something that looks good, and I eat it. You're going to end up like Kodiak, Newton said. Don't say anything bad about Kodiak. He's cool, Midas stated. The helicopter found its way into the air and soon was going past the Dubai coastline. Below the helicopter, the young passengers could see the man-made islands spaced apart to look like a map of the world and more shaped like a palm sprawling out into the sea. The skylife of the city was like an architect's dream brought to life. Everyone marveled at this new city of glass and steel. They then passed over an even larger set of man-made islands. The outermost island was shaped like a crescent with other large islands inside. How long would it take you to make one of those islands? Saber asked Midas. I don't know. Midas felt down with his power. He could feel the ground underneath, the waste system, the water system, the electrical, the pylons driven into the ocean bed, the fiber optics, and all manner of subsystems for communication and monitoring. It's really complex the way it's laid out. It would take a day or two to get the main parts done, and then another week for all the little systems. You mean you could build that in less than 2 weeks? Zayed looked at him in shock. Yeah, I think so, Midas answered honestly. Would you mind if we made a stop over at one of my father's construction sites? I want him to hear this from you, Zayed said with passion. Midas looked at Darkspeed. Well, what do you think? Sure. I mean, we're going to be meeting parents all along the way, Darkspeed said. Zayed turned to the pilot and started giving him new direction. The helicopter turned inland and flew over the city. A few miles in, they landed next to a large construction site. Saber was the first one out and made a direct line to his father. Saber's father wasn't much bigger than his son. The father was, however, very glad to see Saber. Getting out of the helicopter, Zayed began prepping the other boys on how to greet a respectable man in an Arabic country. You're not expected to know the language or customs, but there are a few things. Soft, short handshakes, just a quick greeting. A hard handshake is considered challenging. You say, pleased to meet you first, and be courteous. Saber introduced his father to the boys, one at a time. In turn, each of the boys behaved quite well. Have my sons been good hosts while you have been here? Saber's father said with a British accent. They have been very gracious, Darkspeed said for the group. Zayed started talking in Arabic to his father at a brisk pace. Saber's father turned to Midas and looked at him in disbelief. So you're the one with the construction power. Saber has talked about you when he calls home. I've never heard of anyone with this kind of ability. Would you mind please giving me a demonstration? Saber's father said. Midas looked around at all the workers in blue jumpsuits and white hard hats. He then looked at Darkspeed for direction. Darkspeed spoke up for him. We can't use our powers in public unless it's an emergency. I understand, Saber's father said. He then called one of the men in a blue jumpsuit to him and said something in Arabic. The man in the blue jumpsuit started yelling and screaming at the other workers. They all dropped their tools and started leaving the job site. The men shutting down their heavy equipment were the last to leave. Even the pilot followed them. Now we are not in public. I already know you're an alpha, as does everyone else here. Please, show me, Saber's father said. Is it okay? Midas asked as he looked at Darkspeed. It's not like your secret identity will be shot. Go ahead, Darkspeed said. Midas looked at the job site and at a few large mounds that sat on an open piece of desert. Midas thought about the piles, and they became living steel that started to erect themselves into the framework of a building. He found himself making the dorm he lived in again. He knew it inside and out. When he slept, he felt the building around him. Midas quickly made the large 4-story dormitory, and then he started to construct the inside while still standing where he was. Midas tried to think back to all the detail in the dorm. He tried hard to think of how the dorm was made and the detail in it. He felt his heart pound in his chest, and he couldn't hear those around him. Midas was suddenly aware of the dorm back in Australia. His eyes opened as he felt himself connected to it, like he was next to it with his hands on it. He looked at this new dorm in front of him and projected what he felt. Just like when he kept limestone chips in his pocket, he copied the properties of one thing onto another thing. There's our dorm rooms, Midas said as he looked at the building that was in front of them. The battery backups in the basement will last for 12 hours before it needs to be hooked up to utilities. Saber's father was speechless. His eyes were wide with excitement as he walked forward to place his hands on the building. Walking back and forth, he looked inside the front doors and asked, Can we go inside? Is the inside done as well? Sure, Midas said as he walked forward. Show off, Olympian said as he walked next to Midas and bumped him. I didn't know you could recreate stuff that you made that quickly, Darkspeed said. Yes, this is impressive. It took you hours the first time. You made this in less than 5 minutes, Saber said. I'm real familiar with our dorm. It wasn't that hard to make a connection with it and remake it, Midas said. Saber's father was walking up and down the stairs and looking into rooms. Which room is yours, Saber? He asked. Saber showed his father his room and watched as his father was amazed at the way the alphas lived. The boys all sat around in the central hall of the dorm. Greco was looking around for something. Hey, we had tea in our refrigerator. It's gone. Can you make more? Greco said to Midas. I can make water. Why not tea? When I try to make organic things like that, things that are alive or have been alive, I mess it up pretty bad. Nanomail is nothing next to DNA. I tried to duplicate a leaf from one hand to the next and ended up with stinky green goo, Midas said with a sour face. Never mind then, Greco said. Saber's father came over to the boys sitting and spoke directly to Midas. This is truly amazing. I don't think you understand what a great gift you have. The ability to destroy a supervillain is one thing, but those superheroes who battle in the streets rarely repair them or rebuild buildings. Thank you, sir, Midas said as they all started to head outside. Outside, Saber's father spoke again. Stopping the workers for a while was worth seeing that. I am, for the first time in a long time, without words, he said as he kept looking at the structure. What are your workers doing here today? Midas asked Saber's father. Dubai has grown faster than even we predicted. The city's utilities are being taxed. Sewage, water, electrical, these things need to be addressed if we are to continue to grow. Can I help? Midas asked. I don't think you can. It's quite a project. Thank you for the offer, but I think not. Darkspeed, I could do this, or at least some of it, Midas pleaded with his team leader. Saber's father looked with even more curiosity at the young boy. What do you think you could do? I would do like the Romans did, and how it works in Paris today. Put a barrel-arched tunnel under each of the roads. Made of stone, they never corrode or decay, and with weight on top of them, they would be pretty much earthquake-proof. That way, you could run almost all your utilities underground, except sewer. That one you would need to be deeper under the city and angled for a gravity feed to wherever your treatment station would be. That would be costly beyond reason. Tearing up the roads and tunnel drilling machines stuck in sand. I don't think that would be such a good idea, Saber's father said. I can do the big stuff pretty quick, Midas said with an eager look on his face. Can you tell if you're going to run into other things under the ground?